Alright, so what we learned, picks and bans, win conditions, and this one is burst versus healing and shielding. So it's one of the more straightforward ones, but burst is kind of what defines a lot of mid lane champions, your assassin champions, and the healing and shielding is usually supports like Lulu and Jana, and there's always like Shen there. There's also a lot of different items that can assist with your healing and shielding and damage reduction to help survive bursts, but um, it's pretty much, so we're going to get into this. It's basically explain what it is, kind of specify what the damage and the time frame is in particular towards League of Legends, and also cover that it's very gameplay dependent. Like you can miss both in the burst and the healing and shielding. So uh, there's a lot of different stuff here. So let's just start getting into this. Number one, what is burst? So burst is doing a high amount of damage in a short amount of time to a target with the goal of taking them out of the fight. You generally want to try to kill them, but you don't necessarily need to try to kill them or you don't necessarily need to kill them to get the goal across of taking them out of the fight. But that's it. It's pretty easy, but it does bring up two important questions for League of Legends burst, and those are what's the time frame that you have to do this damage in, and also how much damage you need to do. And that's going to lead us into our next questions. So number two is what is the time frame? So I went ahead to use to assist me with this. I used InvertedComposer's LOL item optimizer. You can check that out. I might put a link in the video just if you want to see that. It's really good for if you learn to figure it out. You can use different item sets and set up different abilities for different champions and see how much damage they're going to do. So it's pretty useful. To figure out the time frame that we want to be able to do this burst in, we're looking at a Tristana auto attacking for 5 seconds. Why 5 seconds? Because that's just about the time that they're going to do enough damage that would kill a squishy target, and that's 1961 damage. How much she's auto attacking when she has 3 items and boots. So this is a later in the game Tristana, like level 15, 16, actually 14 if she's staying in lane with someone else the whole time. About 33 minutes is usually when you're at this point, from pro games at least. And why is this important? Why are we going over an 80 carry? Because 80 carries are doing this without using resources. They're not using cooldowns or anything like that. So burst ideally is going to be shorter than this amount of time. Because if it's longer than this amount of time, why don't you just bring more 80 carries in your team composition who aren't going to be using resources and going to have to wait on their damage? And we actually did kind of see that after the Deathfire Grasp nerf a little bit, if I'm remembering correctly. There was a few more double AD comps that just started showing up because Burst took a huge nerf after DFG, and there wasn't too many champions around that were still able to do it. So burst needs to be less than that. How much less than that? It depends on the champion, but usually you can do all 4 of your spells in about 2 to 3 seconds. And most CC in League of Legends last 1 to 2 seconds. So like 2 seconds is the idealized goal, but depending on the champion, we can call it burst still if it's just one full combo from them. If it takes a little longer than 2 seconds, plus some auto attacks from those champions too. And that's kind of the general time refrain, between 2 and 3 seconds, and that's how we figured it out. So that's number 2 for you. Alright, number 3, ideal targets. So since we're concerned with damage versus effective HP and fights here, if we're going to take somebody out of the fight very quickly at the beginning, we're ideally going to want to take someone out of the fight who's going to be doing a lot of damage. And Ideally, someone who's not gonna stop doing that damage after it's done too. So the sustained damage champions, usually AD carries, make the best targets. They also just happen to be usually the squishiest targets on the map. They have some sustain with lifesteal, so I guess some mages might be worse. But mages have easier itemization paths if they want to build defenses to certain specific bursts that's bought or that's brought to the game. So that's pretty much it for ideal targets. You want to kill high damage sustained champions before they really ramp up their damage, because also like the other burst champions, usually they'll drop their burst at the beginning of the fight, just like you're going to try to do. So it's not, you usually won't be able to kill them before they burst. So usually it's not a target you're going to be looking for. But if they get CC'd or something, it's not bad to waste your cooldowns killing them. But ideally, you want to kill 80 carries, or you got like something like Yi jungle coming around here. That's pretty much it. High damage, high sustained damage, low cooldown champions. So how much damage do you need? We're looking at a standard sort of Victor build versus a Jinx at the corresponding time in game for what her HP is. The red numbers are Victor's damage at those levels, corresponding to having one item of those three items at each time, and the green is Jinx's HP. Also to note, Victor's level 13 and 16 damage. Take into consideration that Jinx is being shielded by an Aegis Legion, but no QSS in level 16 damage. Also note there's no Void Staff on Victor either. But the important thing that we're trying to show here with these numbers is that a mid laner, just by himself, without Ignite, hitting an 80 carry, without using her heal, without any shielding and stuff, will generally kill them. Oh, the burst that Victor is using is QER with 2 auto attacks, one of them being the empowered Q auto attack, and having all his evolution upgrades too. So it's pretty much a standard, like, I'm going to kill you, Victor, and he has enough damage to kill an 80 carry. But as you can see by the blue numbers, that's when Janna, healing and shielding comes into consideration. In League of Legends, everything's balanced pretty close, where basically, 2 or 3 heals and shields from different things, like a Janna shield plus a heal by Jinx, will keep her pretty healthy even through a mid lane burst. And that's really why it's the counter. And you can use almost any healing and shielding for this too. Although Victor has Ignite, it changes it. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of math you can do. A lot of just in-game feelings you can feel just by playing the champion. Like most Victor mains probably know when they can burst an 80 carry or like what HP it's at, just by experience, failing and succeeding so many times. So there's a lot more you can do with this. This picture is just mainly to show that a mid lane can kill an 80 carry unless the 80 carry has shields and heals from one source or another. Also note that mid lane's HP is usually pretty close to what the Jinx is in this picture too, so you can like burst the Jinx there too. It'll all vary depending upon armor, magic resist, all that stuff. So it's important to keep all that in mind, but this is to show you that healing and shielding is usually enough when things are even. If things aren't even, you're probably going to want more. If you're way ahead, probably doesn't matter. If you're way behind, also probably doesn't matter. That's how much damage you need. Alright, so number 5. Burst and healing is very gameplay dependent. This is because it's based around cooldowns. If you waste the cooldowns, they're not there to use. So they are wastable. You can miss your ultimates, you can miss your heal, or you can heal the wrong target, or waste your heal in a situation that you didn't actually need it for, and you're not going to have it when you do need it. So it's all highly dependent upon the players who are in control of these champions. And it's not always going to be successful. You pick a champion and counter burst. It might not end up working out because you fail to land it, or you pick a burst champion and you just don't do the damage in the fight. That can happen. It's not a surefire thing by any means to do this. It's vastly different from the pressure win condition before. Why it's not as significant as the pressure win condition is pressure win condition is just auto attacking for the most part. You're just auto attacking farther than the enemy is. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of skill and talent in there with kiting and orb walking and stuff like that. But this is there's a lot of decision making into who you're gonna burst, when you're gonna burst, and then skill and getting the burst correctly, not dying when you do it, risking yourself. And on the same side with the supports too, it's almost slightly more decision making intensive because they have to predict like when the burst is going to come out, who's going to be the target of it, who do they need to be targeting, and stuff like that. Not as skill dependent, but definitely decision making dependent. So, shit can go wrong, shit can go right with this. But yeah, we're going to move on to examples now. Alright, so we're looking at the first example of what is burst and how is it used in EDG versus IG game 4. You'll see right away here that EDG, if they have Azir and Kog'Maw versus Victor and Ashe, the pressure advantage coming out of EDG is quite strong, and their comp honestly their comp's a little mixed up because it's combining dive and pressure, which if we looked at the last video, they're like counters to each other. Pressure comps don't want to dive, and dive comps usually aren't relying on pressure. But that aside, they do have strong pressure, but what they're lacking is significant shielding and healing. EGG is a good team though, and if you'll notice, they picked up almost every item you can to avoid this burst coming out from Gangplank and Victor. They have Void Staff and Hourglass combined with Locket and Face of the Mountain. Deft has a Bloodthirster too. So like some counters are there, but there's no champions on their team besides Alistar, but his heal isn't that strong. So they're controlling a lot of this game. But we're going to see basically the winning play here by IG is the Victor's going to get off like a clutch alt laser combo onto Pawn and Deft as they're running away from the situation. The team fight's a little weird too by EDG because they get split up here, so all their supports who have those burst defensive items uses them beforehand. I think Clear Love uses his Locket right about now, and then I'm not sure if Mako uses his Face of the Mountain, but there's the Locket use. IG, they shot all their globals, which is pretty good too, but they haven't really gone into the fight yet. Clear Love got hit by the barrel, so he's chunked. We're not going to see the burst yet. Little from Gangplank, because it's Gangplank. I think they actually kill somebody here. Burst, that's big. That's a lot of burst. There's nothing they can really stop it with. So Clear Love dies, but here's where like the strong decisive burst comes from Rookie when he runs them down. And the main targets, are Pawn and Deft, because they're gonna keep the zoning going. They'll be able to like protect their team and keep the pressure up. They're caught in a weird situation right now. Rookie flashes, laser, ultimate. Not a full combo, but that's more than enough damage. If EDG's team had some sort of healing and stuff here, they during this time, because this fight's not over yet, during this time that they're pulling back, they would have been able to sustain up a little bit, potentially shielded that alt laser that hit Pawn, and maybe Pawn would have been relevant in this fight that's still going to be going on because IG doesn't want to let this huge advantage they just got go to waste. So Cacao, being awesome, comes in here and tries to make sure they don't back. Tries to make sure they don't get out of here. The burst for this video has pretty much already happened. You saw it. Their HP is down. They're all out of the fight, essentially. Pawn's not going to be able to do anything more. Mako's not going to be able to do anything more. Clearlive's already dead. The only one left is really Deft and Amazing J, who are, they're chunked out because they got bursted down. While IG, because it happened so fast and at the beginning of the fight, they haven't dealt any damage to IG. And especially for a pressure comp like EDG is, they needed to be set up and like ready for IG to come in at them, and they really weren't really in a good position to do that either. So I don't even see how Deft kills Pawn, or Rookie kills Pawn here, but he manages that, and that was the big thing. Pawn was chunked out of the fight. So since Pawn was gone, they only had Deft, and Deft even kills 2 people here on IG, which really shows like how strong their team comp is with just one person. But again, the decisive burst hit perfectly. It dealt the damage it needed to. Everyone basically died, and this match ended on that burst too. So alright, so we're going example 2 here about healing and shielding against burst, and this is actually the game before the last example. This is game 3 of IG versus EDG, and we're going to look at 2 fights in this, but this first fight here, Deft is going to get bursted down right around the start of the fight, but he's going to be saved just barely before Kog'Maw ult hits him, and immediately after that he ults and is able to zone save his tower, and that's kind of the big thing. Healing, shielding, it saves Deft, keeps him in the fight, versus the last example where Pawn and Deft were Pawn was basically chunked out of the fight after one burst, and their whole team fight collapsed. This, Deft is saved, and he's able to save the tower, and that's what you're trying to do, of course, is save the objectives or take the objectives, like the Nexus in the last game. So I don't remember exactly how they land the burst, but I know it's an Orianna ball. I think it might be a Braum knockup, or Orianna just might do it herself. Who else? What do they have on their team? It could be a Cocoon. Deft's in about the spot that he gets bursted at. Oh, there it is. It's just Rookie. Boom. Huge distortion. And then he's about to die. Like, he got hit by that ultimate too, but now he's got the Lulu ult. He's got people with heals and shields. So they're pressuring tower, trying to get it down. But here Deft comes. I think he ults, maybe he doesn't. No, he doesn't just ult. The fight's still going on. He's gonna ult in a second, and they're gonna pull off. There it goes. But, the rest of his team's getting chunked, but he's still alive, and that's really what counts, because he's gonna put the hurt down. And it was all because he was able to be healed up from the heals and the shields against the double burst. Well, it was only really one burst from Orianna, but IG's comp is really a double burst with wow, I can't think of her name, the top laner there, Orianna and the Ice Queen. But yeah, that was that clip. The next one actually happens only a few seconds later, at 5 minutes 30 seconds here, where EDG takes the offensive. And what happens here, this is pretty cool, because Deft basically gets healed in the middle of this burst for just long enough to get 2 auto attacks off. And these 2 auto attacks, it didn't really seem like they'd be that useful, but they took Rookie and Kid down to half health, which allowed Amazing J to come in there and kill Kid with Amazing J's ultimate on him, which, like, the perfect timing. As soon as the Ice Queen, I can't think of her name, hits her ultimate on Amazing J. Fiora's healing ult just procced, which just canceled all of the damage that she was doing. It healed up the rest of EDG and pretty much won the fight in the game right there. Whereas if if Deft was not healed for those 2 extra auto attacks, if he had died to that initial burst and didn't get that Lulu ult off, then Kid probably wouldn't have died. Rookie would have been healthy. The ult onto Amazing J would have probably killed him because he was about half health when it hit with the tower on him. He wouldn't have been healed up, in fact, he came out of the ultimate healthier because he was healed up from his own ultimate, which wouldn't have procced because Kid would have been alive, and it could have been a really terrible fight for EDG right there. But they countered the burst, at least for a few seconds. Def got those auto attacks off. Amazing J went in, got his heal off, just negated all the tower damage and all the damage to the rest of their team, and they won the fight. And that's pretty much healing and shielding. They got 2 strong healing and shielding champions on their team, and it really helped them against this double burst with Orianna. Yep. I decided to not put in that last example that I have listed there, but basically, if you use your heals too early, you miss your burst, you don't get the heal off, it's not going to work out. Even if you have a comp that looks good on paper, you need to hit the healing and shielding. And in that clip, it was just Balls healed high with his Shen ultimate earlier, but for good reason. They were tower diving. He healed it for the tower, but they went on to chase, and Victor came, and the heal was already gone. So that was pretty much it. It's gameplay dependent. And that's it for burst. Yeah, we'll move on to the next things for the next video.